to the backyard machine shop. Well, picked up a vise recently, and from what I can find, it may be the rarest vise out there. I've only found one example on the internet. It's an Emmert, from what I can find, it's a 10A. I've only found one example on the internet. So Emmert made, from what I can tell, Emmert made 3 vices. Now, I'm no vice expert, but I'm just doing research. They made a 4A, which is a 4A, which is a, oh man, 4A is a 4-inch vise. And it has a couple other features, or a couple of things that this one don't. They made a 6A, which is a 3A vise. Both of them open up about 6 inches. Now, from what I gather, this is a 10A. It's a 6-inch vise. It actually dwarfs the Reed 206 I got sitting here next to me that I rebuilt a couple years ago. But anyway, not a whole lot of information. Found one little, some pictures left over from an eBay sale and linked that through Practical Machinist, and then I found some pictures of the same vise, actually the same pictures that were on the eBay sale in Pinterest. So again, it may be the rarest vise out there. If you got one, let me know. I need some dimensions and some features from one. All right, so it's got a patent date, which if you look it up, the patent is for this whole assembly, and it's also for the 4A and the 6A. This whole assembly will move and rotate into a vertical position. This side here is the name brand Emmert, and it was and it's from Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. So I'm planning on restoring. This vise is not in great condition. There's no cracks that I can find or anything like that. Now, but there's some problems. There's an axle basically that comes through here, and it's broke off and sheared off on this side. And I'm not sure. This is the pivot point for it to pivot, and there's a locking pin right here for it to pivot. Now this locking pin is stuck in there. This axle's stuck. I can't get it out. I've played with it a little bit, tapped on it with a hammer and heated it up. Now this thing's full of ants. Found that out when I heated it up. But anyway, I can't get this to budge. I'm not sure if this is threaded and this is locked in, so I'm scared to do too much work on it over here. Anyway, let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's the end of the axle. Now according to the pictures, there's a locking Tommy bar that comes out here, and it's the same nose as this here, and it locks this vise in position, and it pivots on this axle here. Around here's a locking pin, and this locking pin is sheared off, and it just pulls out, and it's got a locator down inside here. So what my goal is going to be today is to get this thing freed up. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to take this whole assembly off the front. This thing's super heavy, but I might can lighten it up by 40 or 50 pounds by taking this whole assembly. I think it'll just unwind. Not sure, I hadn't tried yet. Back to weight. The 4A and the 6A, I can find plenty of pictures. The difference is, well, let's turn it this way. The difference is, in the 4A and the 6A, this channel right here is open, and the axle actually moves in that channel, and that's what locks it. And you can see there's a channel over here too. It does the same thing. Well, on the 10A, from what I can see, it all pivots off of this back axle, and inside here there's a block, and as it rotates, it has indexes that you can lock it into. So you can lock it into 4 or 5 positions up into vertical. So then you got 3 sets of jaws. Now, if you read if you read the information that I found on the 6A and the 4A, these came with 5 sets of jaws. There is like a serrated jaw, a smooth jaw, and then over here you have some studs that has a floating jaw, and I think they came with maybe an aluminum jaw or something though, but it said it was for copper work. So, and it also came with like pipe jaws that went in here, so they would float, and you could clamp something uneven on it, all kinds of stuff. So don't have those, but I've got an example of them. I could probably remake them during this process. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna fasten this thing down, and we're gonna try to take, now I've already, like I said, I've hit it with a torch a little bit. I've sprayed it with knocker loose. I hadn't been able to get it to budge, and I don't know if it's threaded. If it's threaded, I don't want to mess it up. So I'm gonna work on taking this pin out, and the way we're gonna do that, we're gonna come in here and face this off with a hand grinder. Come in here and face this off with a hand grinder, and I've got a little cap here and a washer. We're gonna tap this probably 5/16, 18, and we're gonna stick this little cap over here and make a little puller, and we're gonna try to pull that pin out. So, but like I said, first thing we're gonna take this whole assembly apart and maybe lighten it up a little bit. All right, so stay tuned. I'm gonna bolt it down and get it off of there. You know, this table, one good thing about this table, it's got a lot of the holes that were in here from when the drill presses was mounted on it. I use them a good bit. And this vise is big. I mean, it's big enough that this table's 2 foot, and I can bolt this one side down, and the other ends are actually sticking out over the, so it's, you know, 2 foot in that direction. Probably weighs 150 pounds, maybe a little more. I hadn't weighed it. It may not be as heavy as the reed, because it's all hollow in here and with a block, but we'll find out. It's a well-built vise, so if I can see if this works. I know that the collar back there is not in it or something, because it's screwing out. Well, looks like the screw's gonna come out before the vise opens up. So let's just go ahead and take the screw all the way out. Hopefully it'll come out. Hopefully it's threaded all the way. Now I sprayed it with some with the knocker loose earlier in the day. So I know we got to make some type of collar. All right, so there's the screw. Let's see if this will come out. Yeah. Come on. Here we go. Yeah, let's take it. Make sure that edge is filed. Let's put some knocker loose on that. Now, so like I said, the other 2 vices, I think the 4 and the 6 is actually what the opening is. And this one looks like it has a larger opening, maybe a 10-inch opening. Let's see if I can come around here and see what's going on. So, all right, guys. So I think I got it now. Maybe one good. Here we go. All right. Yeah, that's gonna lighten this thing up considerably. Now the question is, how does this come out? All right, guys, so let's look in here. It looks like it has a collar back here. And let's get a light. All right, guys, so here's what we're dealing with right here. We got, there's the shaft up there, and looking back in that corner, And I don't think it's threaded. I think it's just all rusted in. That might be good. But we got to take out a couple of bolts here. This thing locks together. I'm going to take and see if I can get it to rotate. The nut looks pretty good. I don't want to break anything. Them bolts look pretty rough. But we need to rotate it around to where I can get to that bolt, right, that screw right there. That one's missing, and that one's broken in half. And you don't see any more. So I'm going to see if I can get this thing to rotate. I'm not sure how it locks, but it locks in place somehow. And let's see what we can do. Looks like it's plenty loose in there. I'm gonna work on that pin and see if we can get that pin out. just use some tap paste. This stuff works really good. I've got anchor lube too. It works well, and Tap Magic, everything else. But what works works, and I had that on hand. Okay, let me see if I can find a 5/16 bolt. All right, guys. So here's our setup. We got a bushing and a washer, and may have to get another washer in here. All right, let's get one more washer. So what the plan is to pull this thing out. Maybe too much. There we go. All right, so let's see if it's going to work. Well, I don't see it working. Okay, guys, we took old Victor to it. And either it's coming or we're breaking it. There we go. I think it's coming out now. Maybe not. Maybe we're just screwing into the washer. Yeah, we ain't budged it. Yeah, it looks like we're going to have to drill it out too. Come up with plan B. Let's cool off some. So, we was unsuccessful removing it. I actually went up to 3/8, tapped it for 3/8, tried to pull it, ended up breaking a bolt off in it. So I think the only thing left to do now is to put it in the mill. We're going to put it in a horizontal mill, get this lined up, and see if we can't blow it out. Only thing that's worrying me about that is the alignment. So, all right. All right, so I put the vise mounted up on the horizontal mill, aligned it the best I could, got my cutter as close to center as I can. I've got a 1/2 inch high-speed steel end mill in here, a little 4-flute center cutting. No, not center cutting, but there's a hole in the middle of it, so really doesn't need to be. Well, my plan is to drill through at least to the center section here and get that material out of here. It looks like it's a little bigger than 1/2 inch, but we're going to go with a 1/2 inch to start with. All right, so here we go. see how we're looking. Come up just a tad. Maybe a thou or two. wheel. All right, guys, well, we got her apart. Probably and honestly the most frustrating thing that I've ever taken apart. One is there's no information out there at all how it works and how it goes together, so I've been having to guess. And trying to protect the castings, I really didn't care about the shafting, the steel parts. They were all, for instance, this shaft right here, it was too far gone that I was going to replace it anyway, so I really wasn't concerned about that. So I took that as in stride when I took it apart. So we've tried everything in the book to take this thing apart. Now the way it works, this is the center housing, okay? It actually, it articulates inside of this main casting. This head, slide it up front, this head here fits into this housing and it rotates inside that housing and allows you to adjust whichever vise you want, whichever set of jaws you want. It was completely rusted together, or well, maybe not rusted, but a colony of ants had built a home in there, and they had packed the ant bed so tight in there that you couldn't get it to budge. When I started messing with this thing and heating it up, ants come out everywhere. I got some video of that. When we first started, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. We started out, this is a indexing pin that rides in these holes here, and this allows you to adjust the vise at whatever angle you want it to. This piece here I haven't knocked out yet, but this is the axle, and this axle, it pivots on this axle and allows you to move the vise up and down. And that was a challenging job to get all this out. Now we did some careful measuring. We set the machine this up in the horizontal mill and basically bored out the pins that was in it. Now, didn't know it because there's no information on these things, but there is a spring, and I don't know where the spring is. I pulled it out, broke it as I was pulling it out. But anyway, we bored. We was very careful what size we bored. We bored it out. Mostly just used end mills and got it as close as we could, and then come in with a boring bar and cleaned it up the rest of the way. I was worried about threads on this shaft. I wasn't sure how it went together, so I didn't want to try to knock it out. I did try to knock it out. It didn't move. But I didn't want to go too far with it because I wasn't sure how it was secured inside this this casting. So same thing, I bored it to a thin wall until I broke through somewhere where I could see what was in the casting, and no threads. It did have a keyway that has to be timed for this thing to come out. So I still haven't knocked out. This is the other end of the axle. It's got to be knocked out or pressed out. This thing is just rusted together. Like I said, where I got it from, there's no telling how many years it's been sitting on top of that table, just filling up with water and everything else, ants. Anyway, again, since it's one of the rarest vices out there, and honestly can't find any information out. I found 2 different vices, one picture of one and 4 or 5 pictures of the other. And seriously, the one that was out there, from what I've seen on Practical Machinist, they had it listed for a lot of money. And I know it ain't worth what they were listing it for, but again, one of the rarest vices out there. So again, these are indexing holes that allows you to tilt it back and forth, and then you have the axle. Pretty simple. I still haven't been able to get the base off. I've tried impact wrench. I've got it full right now of CRC knocker loose, but I've used knocker loose. I've used WD-40. I've used torch, impacts, name it. We've tried everything, but we finally got it loose, and how I got it apart was probably the simplest tool I have in the shop. After boring this and boring out that pin, I just come inside between the 2 parts and sawed the axle and the pin, what was left of the pin, I sawed it out, and then it came right apart. The main head, which fits inside of this part, is in good shape. The bolt, or the screw, is in real good shape. It's got a collar. It wasn't working in the first one. You see me take it off, but the collar's in here. But there's a pin that's broke off right here, and I'm assuming that's what keeps that collar from working back and forth. So we got to fix that. The handle's missing. Somebody has screwed a piece of pipe on here, and a couple other things. The nut. Here's the nut, and it's actually keyed to go into this piece, and it rotates along with this piece. It's got 3 screws in it and a key. If you can see it, I'm not sure if you can see it, but this hole's gonna need some work. This screw hole's gonna need some work, and probably that one also. So we've got some brazing work to do on the nut. Hate to have to try to remake that nut. That's a fancy nut. So, and it fits in here, and it actually secures the rotating vise jaws to the part also. So now I know how it comes apart, and how it works. We have a couple indexing pins that indexes the jaws that goes in the top of this piece here. Had to do the same thing to it. We had to bore it out. It was broke off. This axle was broke off. Like I said, we didn't know how it worked. There's actually a finial, if you want to call it that, the same as this, in a Tommy bar that from the pictures that lock this thing in position. So the next step is we're going to clean up everything, and we got a lot of machine work to do on this one, guys, and it's going to be fun. We're going to have to make a new axle. We're going to have to make a new indexer, or what you call it, anyway, an indexing pin. We actually have the tip. Here's the tip, piece of it looks like phenolic, but there's the tip that goes into those holes right here that locks it. So we'll have to make a new one of those. You know, and we got to get this base apart. I put a impact wrench on it. I put torch to it, and right now I've just got it soaking again in some brick knocker loose. But hopefully, if we have to, hopefully we won't have to, but hopefully if we have to, we'll bore it out too and retap it. I mean, I've seen down inside the threads there, and they're terrible. They're eaten up. They're just about disintegrated. So it needs to be probably drilled out and put an insert in there anyway. So again, I hated to do some of the stuff I had to do to it, but the main thing is saving these castings. Everything else can be remade pretty easily. So look out, we're gonna have to make a shaft. We're gonna have to make an indexing pin. We're gonna have to get a spring for the indexing pin, and clean it up and paint it up. The jaws, some of these jaws may be replaceable. I can't really tell. I hadn't cleaned them up enough. We're gonna have to make the jaws here. These are floating jaws, in case you're trying to clamp something that's uneven, or you can make a set for pipes. And from what I understand, this is what this is for. It's a cool vise. Now, this vise I got from a friend of mine's wife. The gentleman, he worked for me, or worked with me, however you want to put it. He was one of my welders and my millwrights, and he was a blacksmith, and he just loved working on everything. He passed away a couple years ago, and Miss Lisa called me and told me that that she really wanted me to have this stuff. So I went over there and picked it up, and I was excited about it, and still am. And so just like the Reed vise here that was my dad's, and when I call it Buddy, this was Ernie's vise. Okay, this was a good friend of mine, Ernie Safely. So this is going to be, I'm going to call this vise Ernie, and you know, hopefully I can do it some justice. I hope y'all want to stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed the videos. A friend of mine, he's starting his YouTube channel. It's called Gibbons Garage. You guys can go over there and check out. He's a CNC programmer and CNC machinist. He actually works with me, and he needs a good start. Been meaning to mention him in the last couple of videos. He actually went and helped me secure or retrieve most of this device and stuff like this. So, and I think we have some video, but I don't have it with me of that. So get over to Gibbons Garage and check out his YouTube channel. He's just starting out. I don't know if he has but 1 or 2 videos out, but give him some subscribers. Okay. Next thing is thank you guys for watching. All the new subscribers, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the comments. This is going to be our project. I really was trying to get back on the John Doe Shaper. This kind of fell in my lap, and I want to get it knocked out, get it out of the way, and so in the next couple of weeks you'll see that stuff. Next couple of videos anyway, you'll see what's going on with it. So from the Backyard Machine Shop, so long.